Remember the 5th of November with the CU Podcast. Alongside Ian Ferguson, I'm Pat Contry. Oh, we got something of a podcast today. We're going to cobble this one together. We'll be speaking about...
Nothing happened over the weekend.
WWE Crown Jewel. BlizzCon, our favorite time of the year. We should have an anniversary celebration of BlizzCon. And our good old Diablo Immortal. Martin Scorcese penning an op-ed piece on Marvel movies and why they're not cinema to him. That's interesting. Valve removing CSGO key buying and selling. Patreon poll topic and Q&A. Ian, before we get into things, how was your weekend?
It was good. I went and saw Zombieland 2 with Vonnie last night.
That's Trick Boogaloo.
A few weeks after it came out.
It's been up for a few weeks already? Or 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think it came out when we were in Portland.
Did it? Well, it's only 2 weeks ago.
So, the first movie was actually, it wasn't really our first, it was our first date. That's what we call it. So we were, never thought there was going to be a sequel to the movie. And then like over the summer, I saw like an announcement pop up, and initially it was supposed to come out on the same day that it came, the original one came out.
Was that like in October?
October 11th. But they pushed it off a week. So we finally went and saw it. I was surprised that it was actually pretty damn good. Same writers, same director, same producers, same cast.
I thought they were supposed to make this like 5-6 years ago originally, and this never happened.
I don't even remember that. I don't remember there being any talk about it. And then, yeah, I mean, it was funny. And
the little girl's all grown up now.
Yeah.
She's like a teenager. She's like 18 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah. She was 11 in the movie, so like 21 now.
And then Emma Stone goes from being like just an up-and-coming actress to like now she's like one of the biggest actresses around.
Yeah. So, no, it was a good cast, and not every joke hit perfectly, but honestly, it was a good zombie movie, and there was some genuinely funny stuff in there, so I'm happy I saw it.
Well, Woody Harrelson's good in everything, and Jesse Eisenberg's, fun.
Yeah, no, they're both very good.
The cast is too good for this type of movie, so that makes it better.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. It's like with a cast like that, you're gonna get something decent out of it.
And there was another zombie movie that was making the rounds with Bill Murray in it as a police, like a small town sheriff. With you see that one that's coming out? Let's see, zombie movie, Bill Murray. It just came to mind. What the hell was that one coming out? The Dead Don't Die. It's a focus feature, like a smaller one, and the cast is insane in this movie. Adam Driver and Tilda Swinton are in it. So this is like a really, like, talk about, a cast that you don't need for a zombie movie. But when did this come out already? Oh, it came out in June. I didn't hear anything about this.
There you go.
I would have saw this in the theaters. So more of like an indie or Steve Buscemi, Tilda Swinton have cameos. Chloe Sevigny. Danny Glover's in it, Rosie Perez, Iggy Pop, Selena Gomez. So almost sounds like a Mars Attack sort of deal where they got a bunch of cameos.
I remember hearing about it. I didn't know that it actually came out because I remember seeing pictures of Bill Murray and Selena Gomez like on press.
Would have been good to see this in the theater.
Would have been.
Yeah, well, that goes into another topic we'll get into later.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later.
I remember seeing the trailers for this, and then I was like, "Oh, did this come out?" And it came out 5-6 months ago. But the main stars are Tilda Swinton, Adam Driver, and Bill Murray in a zombie movie, like a small town zombie. It sounds incredible, And the RZA's in it.
Steve Buscemi. I was gonna say RZA. Man, that's a
Tom Waits.
Yeah, that's a cast.
That's a cast for sure. It's like a lot of favors got phoned in for that, and it did only 14 million at the box office. There you go, because it's a focus features. That's Sony's smaller little indie sort of label there. Anyway, well, that's good. You had fun. Real quick before I get into my weekend, new NES Punk video, Ian. It's Christmas. It's Halloween. It came out in Halloween in Hawaii. It came out 12:30 a.m. on the first. That's the best you're going to get from me for a Halloween video, though. Not a week behind. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That's close. And that was not an inspiration, but I got some sort of weird energy about we'll just say like a week and a half ago. I was like, you know what? I want to write this real quick because the writing part's easy. So I did a little Twitch thing of me playing Monster in My Pocket. That's the review. And then I had my pal Pixel Dan film a little help to just explain the toy line. We worked it in with a funny way, and it sets up the next NES Punk video. There will be one in November, Ian.
Oh,
it's going to be a biggie. It's going to be a biggie. Might be a collab, you can say. You want a collab, Ian, sometimes?
No.
No, you don't. No. Later on the same day on November 1st, you got a 2 for Pat block. My rental review with Kieran and James on the Cinemaster channel came out, and we reviewed arguably the most testosterone-filled movie ever, Predator. We filmed there, and we talked about the backstory, how Van Damme was originally the monster, how the shoot was hell on earth. I didn't get into some of the things, how like Sonny Landon needed a bodyguard to keep people away from him because he was just a nutcase who played Billy, the Native American soldier. Lots of fun thing how Shane Black was in it, who played Hawkins, who helped write it, and also went on to do Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Good Guys, Iron Man 3, things like that. Lethal Weapon, Shane Black.
Is there any discussion of sexual tyrannosauruses?
I think that line came up.
Okay.
I talked a lot about Bill Duke, who played Mac, because I loved his character in that movie. And what was nice about Predator was that, I don't want to say it was a thinking man's action film at the time, but there was a lot of good interplay, and there were small character arcs between almost all the soldiers in it. And none of them were played out to be like, oh, this is the asshole of the group. Right. It was like a real military unit. Like, they all had camaraderie, and that was impressive about it. And they all trained before the movie, I think, for a couple of months before, in order to act and sort of sound more like a real, guerrilla group there. No, check out that review on the Cinemaster channel. I think it was a great discussion all three of us had. I didn't dominate the conversation too much like I can tend to do. So that was there. Real quick, Nintendo Age is now gone, really. So when you go to NintendoAge.com, Ian, our favorite website now goes to connect.gocollect.com there. So they still have there are forums still there. So the archived Nintendo Age posts, fortunately, they have archived the Nintendo Age posts in its own little category, and you can search by them. Let's see. Let me see if I type in M82, what happens on the search there, if it comes up there. But it's definitely a home now for what you think it's going to be. It's going to highlight, okay, M82, it works. So the search works, so that's good. But when you go to the home here, first thing you see, Ian, is the Video Games Investors Pit, the place to talk speculation, market analysis, variance, and more. That's why this site was bought. It was bought for the sealed grading market and those collectors, so that's why everyone went to Video Game. They're going to Video Game Sage now.
There it is. Yeah, Video Game Investor. Okay,
yeah. Got it. And there is a general game discussion, but people, the first post on the general video game discussion is rest in peace NA. Is there a forum people are moving to? So rest in peace NA. There you go. So it is what it is. One post here about a major small cache of Sega Genesis Mega Drive prototypes found. That's pretty cool. So maybe there'll still be news posted here from time to time here. So there you go. Anyway, what else is going to talk about? Oh, real quick, before we get into Crown Jewel, my trip to Syracuse Retro Game Con went very well. When I actually arrived there, Ian, I sold some guidebooks. Updating the book. So right now the book's it's in kitting mode. Kitting, which means it's getting bubble wrapped. So several thousand books are being bubble wrapped by the fine folks in the Michigan warehouse. So the pre-orders and Kickstarters should start to go out this week. That's the good news. Double fist pump in the air there. So that's good. So in Syracuse, Ian, I had fun there. I had some local Syracuse pizza, not quite the Long Island pizza. It was like 50% Long Island pizza, but still better than our pizza here.
It's going to be better than most of what you find here.
You got some of the taste, but not all of it here. And I got a meatball sandwich, and and I hung out and I saw Rocco. Rocco, the Wonder Dog, is doing a bit better. Not out of the woods yet, but he's starting to slowly put on some weight.
That's good.
I've tweeted out the GoFundMe to help out Rocco, the dog, because he's having issues with his kidneys. But he's slowly on the mend, but he still needs some help and some cash. If you guys can afford it, check out the GoFundMe. But my travel day, Ian, was hell on earth. So this is how my travel day started, and it was November 1st. So that Friday. And whenever you travel if people don't travel a lot, whenever you travel from West to East Coast, the whole day's shot. Because it's at least the best you're going to do is a 5-hour direct flight, and then plus you lose 3 hours.
Right.
So it's 8 hours you lose of the day. So I want to try to get there by like 5 p.m. To do that, you need a 6 a.m. flight to get there, at least for Syracuse. Because Syracuse, there's no direct flights from San Diego. The best you do is like a transfer somewhere. And this was going to be a transfer in Charlotte, of all places. So you waste time going all the way east, then you go up north. It wasn't even a direct path, like going through Chicago. So anyway, So I had a 6 a.m. flight booked. I get my NES Punk video out literally 12:30. I pack at like 2 in the morning, you know, and I'm done. I go to sleep. I get 4 hours. I get 2 hours of sleep. I get up at 4 a.m. Get to the airport at 4:30 a.m. The flight's delayed. 4 hours until 10 a.m. American Airlines tells me. I couldn't get an app alert about it. That would have been nice. I could have slept in. I show up there. And you know what? My first knew that there was a huge ass line at the customer service for American Airlines.
So when you walked in,
I'm like,
obvious.
But then I looked at I was like, okay. So I go and I say, okay. And then the lady behind the counter was not nice at all. Customer service woman. I said, yeah, I see that the you know, my flight's been delayed. I like to, you know, see what's going on because I might miss my, you know, my connection. And then, so she said, just give me your ID. And okay, I was doing it. I was in the middle of doing it. There's a history in the show, Ian, where customer service people are just overtly, unnecessarily rude to me, whether it's people at the post office, people working at the UPS store. There's just people that just don't like my face, I guess, and are just really mean to me. Anyway, for no reason. So it turns out that, you know, it's really going to be more of a noon flight. So I was like, okay, noon now? Really, noon. So they switched it to noon. So I was like, all right. So then I realized if it's a noon flight, I'm going to miss my connection in Charlotte because my connection in Charlotte was like 3.
Right.
So then I'm like, now I'm starting to semi-panic. So she worked it out. I said, okay, well, there's a flight there at 10 o'clock, and that's all you get. Basically like that. She said like that. I was like, oh, I don't have a choice. She's like, no, that's it. So I'm like, okay, sure. There's my whole day's shop, but at least I get to Syracuse. I can, you know, get there and set up Saturday morning. So all right, I go back home then. I go back home, get home at like 5:15, 5:30. I sleep until 10. It's like that anxiety, anger sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm talking about. So like you're not fully rested.
I can't get that sort of sleep.
I get up at 10. Oh, by the way, before I left, she said, you want to get here early because things can change. I said, or I'll be fine getting here when I get here because it's rare where the flight gets moved back up. You know, and I assumed that the flight was going to be fine for 12.
Sure.
Get to the airport at 10:30. The flight's not good for 12 anymore. It's now pushed back to 2. Again, I was not alerted beforehand, but this time it made sense. So I go back to the customer service again in a long line because you don't have a choice. I talked to a nicer service agent, this nice middle-aged man, and he said, let's get you to Syracuse. I'm like, let's do it. I had to take 3 different flights to get to Syracuse. Not just 2, 3. So I had
2 layovers, 3 total flights?
Yes, Ian. And rushing layovers because now it's so time compressed. So flying from 2 o'clock, now 2 o'clock to get to Phoenix, rush from Phoenix, literally like 45 minutes in between flights. So that's when they almost start to board. Rush to get to the next flight. They get from Phoenix to Charlotte again. I don't know why they go through Charlotte, and then to go from Charlotte up to Syracuse. So I did all that fun time. When I get to Charlotte though, Ian, I still have 2 hours to go. I'm cranky. I'm tired. I was sick. I had snot dribbling down my nose like from the second flight on. I've been sick the last 3 weeks. You can attest to that. I'm finally starting to get better. So the Charlotte airport, Ian, is set up like a mall almost. There's a central hub between all the terminals where it's like, oh, this is nice. It's like there's a bunch of stores on the side. It's almost like a mall. There's some shopping. So I gotta hit the bathroom just real quick. There's snot coming out of my nose. Like I'm just like I'm carrying around my big stand-up, my pull-up banner. I'm done with the day. At this point, it's been about 14 hours of travel time between when I got up and then. I go down this little corridor. There's like a little frozen yogurt place there, like healthy frozen yogurt place. There's a little bathroom. I open the door in the bathroom and no one's in there. I'm like, this is fantastic. There's no one in the bathroom. I turn, then there's an attendant there who was dressed up like fairly nicely, almost like he was like a guy in a restaurant who gives you a mitt and hands you, the towel to dry your hands off. So it was kind of weirded out, but I think he was just the janitor. But he was dressed up nice, and he went like this. He gestures like, "Oh, go use it," like just like that. Barely spoke anything to me. So I stagger over. I wasn't even going to the bathroom. I had to blow my nose because it was all fucking snot and clogged. I blow my nose, like you know how I blow my nose. I'll give you an example. I don't have a tissue, but when I blow my nose, I'm pretty loud. It's like a horn a little bit.
Yes, it is.
I wash my hands. I turn around. He looks at me and goes, "Her." I stopped. Like I thought maybe he was trying to communicate something to me, like he was like a mute person. So I start to walk again to leave, and again he goes, huh, huh. And he gives me a little wry smile. And I stop, and I turn, and I say, are you making fun of how I blew my nose? He looked at me, smiled, he didn't say anything, and went, huh, huh. I swear to God, Ian,
Oh my God.
for a quarter second, I thought, could I murder this random person and get away with it? I could not believe that was happening after that day at that point in time.
Oh my God.
This 7-year-old janitor was making fun of me how I was blowing my nose while I was in probably the worst state of mind I had been in a while after this day. That was still going on, by the way. I had one more flight left. And to my credit, I didn't murder him because I think I figured out the cameras from the outside would know when I would come in and out. There's no cameras in the bathroom but outside. And, I walked out and grit my teeth and I said, all right, one more flight to go. I didn't call him any names. I think I cursed at him after I got out of the bathroom. I think I cursed at him under my breath. But yeah, that was my Friday. That was my Friday traveling. That was my fun day.
Oh boy.
You want to talk about WWE Crown Jewel a little bit? Just a little bit.
Go for it.
So Crown Jewel was the fourth event in Saudi Arabia. They're doing 2 a year for 10 years. WWE events in Saudi Arabia. It sounded like it was a swell show,
both in ring and after.
Yeah, let's talk about the in ring at first. The big ones were Cain Velasquez versus Brock Lesnar. Oh, it was a monumental battle. So much ring psychology. No, it was a two minute match that had Brock Lesnar on his back getting punched by Cain Velasquez. They treated it like an MMA fight, and then Brock Lesnar caught him in a Kimura lock, and he won. There you go. Thanks for coming. Glad you beat Kofi Kingston in 3 seconds for that match. I really needed that to happen.
Yeah, what a payoff.
And then Brock then ends up, which they thought was going to happen, ends up leaving SmackDown after only being on SmackDown for a month, and is now the guy on Raw. Because they had a rematch from the Hell in a Cell between Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt won. They corrected their error, which WWE always does too late. They put the belt on Bray Wyatt. Seth Rollins was on Raw, though. Bray Wyatt was on SmackDown, so now there's champions on both shows now again. So the whole thing's a cluster F in terms of the booking with the championships. There, they had an awful fight between Braun Strowman and the boxer Tyson Fury.
So this is the one I'm reading up on right now, is this Fury Strowman match, and it seems like it would have been a mess. What happened to fucking Strowman?
Strowman should have been champion 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
and they've totally, like they always do, they never pull the trigger when a guy is hot. They should have had a Strowman Brock Lesnar match. I think they did eventually have some sort of match between them, and then Strowman lost, so they ruined him. The same way they've ruined in the past, ruining Dolph Ziggler and Bray Wyatt 4 years ago, who should have been the biggest thing, and now is on the comeback, thankfully for him. They always never pull the trigger on this stuff. They just don't do it.
Right.
They don't go with the hot hand. They got drag kicking and screaming with Daniel Bryan, whatever that was 5 years ago. They just don't do it.
I mean, if people are gonna bitch, why not? Anyways, if their default now is people complaining, why not try the risk? Why not?
Because they have a built-in safety audience that's always going to be there at this point. It's a product. It's not It's not really a wrestling product, or it's an entertainment product. Wrestling is like secondary.
Right.
So this Tyson Fury thing sounded horrible, but Tyson Fury probably got like $12 million to show up and do an 8-minute match. Lesnar shows up for these matches and gets paid $1 million, and I think someone said all the Lesnar matches in Saudi Arabia combined have been like 20 minutes, all 4 matches that he's done. Something like that.
I don't even know who Tyson Fury is. Now
he's the lineal heavyweight champion. He's undefeated heavyweight champion. He's going to have he's one of the 3 or 4 biggest heavyweight boxers in the world. He's going to fight. There's going to be a big fight in February between him and the guy he had the fight to a draw last year. Remember, he got knocked down. He came back up like the Undertaker. That's Tyson Fury.
Okay, right.
He's 31. Let's see, who is he fighting? What the hell is his name? Deontay Wilder. That's going to be a huge fight next year. The heavyweight division of boxing for the first time in like 20 years is exciting again. So that's going to be a big fight.
Oh, so this was a real boxer versus
a real
match.
Boxer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, he's like 6'8". He's a big guy. Something like that. 6'9". Yeah, he's a real boxer. Undefeated, like I said. So yeah, they set up a weird feud with Braun Strowman in a couple of weeks, and then You get them because some Saudi king wants to see it, and so they do it.
Right.
They pull the strings and give us the money.
Make my action figures
Yes,
play.
exactly. At least there wasn't a Goldberg Undertaker match where Undertaker almost gets killed because Goldberg almost kills him. At least we didn't have that.
They both looked awful in that match. Sorry, I'm not going to defend Undertaker either.
No. Well, Goldberg's never looked good in a match.
No.
But Undertaker can work with someone even at older age if someone's decent. But together, no.
I watched that mess, and yes, Goldberg was the main issue, but Undertaker fucked up plenty. It was not a one-sided Goldberger fight.
They're both over 50.
It was awful.
Or about 50. Yeah.
Holy shit, that was a bad match.
So the problem with these events, Ian, is that they book it like a pay-per-view. They book towards these crappy events that everyone knows is going to be garbage.
Right.
So the whole month gets stopped off, and now we got to do these things and weird stuff like the Tyson Fury. So it's almost like a mini WrestleMania now, these Saudi Arabia events. You can say they do weird shit like the Tyson Fury stuff that they don't usually do. Then they had the first women's match in Saudi Arabia. I'll give them a slight applause for that between Natalya and Lacey Evans. That's a step forward, even though they both had to wear gigantic oversized t-shirts because we don't want to see any body parts on a woman at all. We can't do that. So the t-shirts covered their ass. They went all the way down. It's progress, I guess. If it's 1910, it's progress. It's better than nothing, but that was a big deal, I guess. And the crowd seemed to like it, so that's good because probably the younger people are more progressive and don't mind seeing a woman's shoulder. So there you go. And then they had the Team Hogan versus Team Flair thing at the end. Who the hell cares? But Ian, I guess the main news was the fact that most of the wrestlers, not all, but most of the wrestlers got stuck there.
Yes.
In Saudi Arabia with the SmackDown live taping coming the next day.
Right.
So that was the issue.
Yeah, and a lot of people were saying, that it was kidnapping and that it was money related. And I mean, the whole thing sounds like a fucking nightmare. I would not have wanted to have been part of that.
So SmackDown almost wasn't a thing then on Friday. They had to rush NXT wrestlers that barely got there in time for SmackDown. It was basically an NXT event on Friday Night SmackDown, which I didn't see, but Daniel Bryan fought the NXT champion, Adam Cole, on Friday SmackDown. So I guess that's what I mean. Hey, you made your money in Saudi Arabia, but that's the danger of doing an event like that. I guess that's halfway.
Yeah, I mean that's scary. I mean that's frightening stuff for I think anyone. You never know. Especially because there were initial rumors.
What were the initial rumors?
That it was over.
Money,
because very true. Saudi, they had not paid the WWE for all of the shows. There was money due.
They still owe money on these shows?
Yeah, they owed money on the shows, and there was rumor that a certain broadcast had been pulled down because Vince hadn't received the money, and then
so they were fucking with them now.
And then now they're it's really not that funny. It's kind of terrifying that. These people's lives and their ability to travel and their well-being is kind of fucking in the balance here over money bullshit and arguing between Saudi Arabia
and an authoritarian government.
Yes, an authoritarian government. And then it's money issues between them and Vince McMahon. I can't imagine. I mean,
that was a report from Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio. His sources said that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia owed WWE money from its previous show in the country, Super Showdown in June. Vince McMahon reportedly cut the live feed to Crown Jewel in the country as part of the dispute. I didn't hear about that.
But they said that. But then they came back and said that wasn't why they did that.
They said it was. Now they're saying that WWE's official statement was that the charter plane the company was planning to use experienced mechanical issues that precluded it from flying. Yeah,
basically,
you think?
These fucking rich boys are arguing back and forth over how they're going to play with their toys and who's going to get paid for it, and the wrestlers are getting fucked big time in the meanwhile.
According to Meltzer, McMahon and a handful of stars, including Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar, and Ric Flair, were able to leave the plane leave on their own private jets, which left a lot of people very, very upset. WWE had to significantly alter its plans for Friday's edition of SmackDown, with so many wrestlers still left in Saudi Arabia. Holy crap!
Well, if I was a wrestler for the WWE right now, I would not think that company has my best. I mean, not that I would have thought that, but I would be afraid to work for that company. They do not care.
This is a 10-year, $450 million deal for WWE. That's what it is. So they're basically getting $45 million per show, I guess, guaranteed on top of whatever the hell else goes on. So, wow. Well, there you go. Well, you wanted your money. You got to play with this government. I think AJ Styles did a Q&A on his streaming and saying, "Oh no, it was mechanical things. We were allowed to get off the plane. There wasn't anything." They were fucking with them. Probably they're probably fucking, "Oh, we got mechanical issues. We'll deal with it."
You'll never know. But but it's a scary situation to be in, and to feel like you don't have
control of it.
Your control of it, and your company, and to feel like your company doesn't have your back is what's terrifying.
They better get these wrestlers that go to these shows a ton of like bonus money. They better. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it to go over. Some wrestlers are still refused to go. Like Daniel Bryan doesn't go to any of these. I think John Cena went to one of them, but didn't go to the other ones because they have issues with it.
Yeah, I know he didn't go to I don't think he went to the first one, or he went to the first one and none after that. I can't recall.
But Daniel Bryan doesn't go to any of these, so good on them for not doing it, because they have obviously issue with Saudi Arabia's human rights and treatment of women and things like that. So, all right, well, it's a weird situation, but Ian, there's going to be 8 more years of this to deal with.
Yeah.
About, or is it 2 a year or whatever? 5 more years? I thought it was a 10-year deal, but they've been doing. Oh, it's a 10-year deal. So far they've been doing 2 a year. So we got 16 more events in 8 years roughly. Great. Well, at least they didn't chop anyone's hands off. That would have been bad. I think they did that there. All right, we're starting the show with after our slapdash intro. All right, Ian, our favorite time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
So BlizzCon was this past weekend, and I think going into it, everyone had eyes on how Blizzard was going to handle this. Blizzard has not had a particularly good run in the past year. And while people do tend to forget about things fairly quickly, Blizzard was just in the news, as we've covered, and everyone covered, over the suspension of Hearthstone player BlitzChung and taking away his tournament winnings for saying "Free Hong Kong" during a post-game interview. And they also fired the 2 broadcasters who were interviewing him.
Shoutcasters, is that what they call them? Something like that?
Something like that.
Something cringy.
So the response was swift from everyone on the internet, and it was one of those rare occasions where I think from all political walks of life, people were upset for various different reasons, and none of it was good for Blizzard. People were canceling their accounts. Blizzard was losing. Apparently, they were seeing, I believe, their stocks saw pretty substantial.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'll look up the stocks right now.
Yeah, look that up. That's what I was reading. But I think they saw like a stock dip, Blizzard Activision. So
go to my TD Ameritrade account.
They took forever to get back to respond. And when they finally did, they gave the player BlitzChung his prize winnings back, and they reduced his suspension to 6 months. But still didn't really say a whole lot other than that.
The stock's been going up and down. I don't really see a huge dip in the stock. Maybe a couple of percentage points.
So
overall, not
before the opening ceremony, the CEO, J. Allen Brack, came out and apologized to the crowd. But I think for a lot of people, the apology was felt as sort of a non-apology or weak. Now, when you're making a public apology, you're never going to please everyone. But this was kind of sappy and a little toothless. So basically what he said was, Blizzard had the opportunity to bring the world together in a tough Hearthstone esports moment about a month ago, and we did not, said Brack. We moved too quickly in our decision making, and then, to make matters worse, we were too slow to talk with all of you, said Brack. We didn't live up to the high standards that we really set for ourselves. Brack went further and said, I'm sorry and I accept accountability.
So not really saying we did the wrong thing.
Saying there's a lot to be said.
A little toothless.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, in an apology, saying that you're actually sorry, that you accept accountability, not saying I'm sorry, but those are all good things. So the words are there, except for the fact that they didn't acknowledge what they did wrong at all. No. There was no apology for suppressing the speech of someone who's, trying to gain independence from China. It all still smacks of a very, very it's very milquetoast. There's no energy. They had the energy to come out and and punish Blitzchung. I'm not seeing any of that energy coming back around to try to make things right. It's still very mealy-mouthed and very lacking of any backbone. I mean, you could have come out. I mean, one thing that you could have done to make it better. I mean, and they acknowledge that, you'll have to see our actions. Well, one thing you could have done is just eliminate the suspension of the player. I realize that you feel like because you had a rule and that rule was, there has to be some sort of repercussion. But if a rule is shitty, then that rule should go away. It shouldn't be enforced for the sake of enforcing the rule. And with rules like this, they're so vaguely worded so that you can come in and come down on someone if they're, what was the wording they used? Like, not embarrassing, but making Blizzard look bad in the public light. Mm-hmm. But you could very easily just be like, yeah, that didn't make us look bad. We're all about freedom in Hong Kong.
Well, they're not going to do that.
Well, they're not. But I'm just saying, you can go multiple ways with this. This rule is not so exacting that you had to come down on this one. Well, it's a rule. We got to make examples of the rules. You don't have to do that all the time.
The one thing we didn't comment on at the time, which we probably should have, is that 5% of Activision Blizzard is owned by a Chinese company. Tencent holders.
I thought we mentioned that.
Did we mention it? Either way, like, as long as there's some of that going on, you're not going to get a real full policy. You never will. You absolutely never will. So you just won't. And besides it, they realize their hands are tied somewhat. Probably, it's when you do a deal with the devil. I mean, the NBA's come out a little bit stronger in terms of in the past week or two on their side dealing with China. And I think that someone has to call someone's bluff at some point. And the NBA's starting to do it where it's like, we're going to stand behind our guys, and so be it. And that's where, it's going to come down to, okay. Well,
did LeBron find his balls?
I don't think LeBron did. I think he tried to, clarify it. That was disappointing, obviously.
No, he tried to clarify it and made matters worse. He sounds like a fucking idiot.
This is what you have to do. You have to start calling bluffs. If someone has a problem with our business ventures here in China, we'll just say, okay, you don't think we're not going to make money there. You make money too with us being there. Then okay, don't deal with this then. And I think they'll cave. They realize economically they're going to have to work with us in any of these ventures. Since it's a global economy.
Yeah,
they're going to have to cave. I think, or start up your own NBA in China or Basketball Association in China, which won't be 10% as good as ours. You can try and do it, and the people in China will still watch our games and pay for some of our products in some capacity. Bluffs have to be called at some point. In terms of if we're going to influence the world somewhat, we can't do it militarily all the time. We can do it with our economy and our culture. That's really what is going to happen. Is we're going to have a cultural economic victory in regions of the world that currently are behind us when it comes to either human rights or women's rights and or things with the climate, because there's big countries like China and India that are way behind us in terms of emission standards and things of that nature, because they're trying to catch up to us in the global economy. That's the only way out. We can't march into every country with soldiers, but economically and culturally we can try to exert pressure, and that's what has to happen. Otherwise, you're going to get way more situations like this. This is going to happen every other month. The more and more we get into it, and not just with China, with other countries like India and other countries, it's going to start happening more and more. And in the Middle East, it's going to happen more and more. We're going to have tiptoeing corporations around all these different regimes, and it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, it was an apology for nothing in particular. They apologized without ever really acknowledging what they were supposed to be apologizing for.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It doesn't sit particularly well with me.
But good news, Ian. Something we knew about before the BlizzCon last year that was reported and that they said about the announcement of Diablo 4.
So I'm fucking excited for this. Diablo 4 was announced. We all knew it was coming in the works. Now we're finally getting to see something on it. It looks like it's going to be it's going to be trying to appeal to, I think, the older, not the older players, but the people who are a bigger fan of the original look. It definitely looks a lot darker in tone than Diablo 3 did. Diablo 3 was not like a light, happy-go-lucky game, but Diablo 3 was a bit more, I would say a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more palatable, maybe, for people. It shined up the demon stuff a bit.
It shined up the hellscape a little bit.
The character design it's hard to explain, but when you play Diablo 3, as much as I loved Diablo 3, you get a sense that it was maybe cleaned up a little bit. It wasn't quite as dark and grim as the first and the second one.
Some screenshots. It looks dark still.
So this one, I think they went to kind of settle concerns that it wasn't going to be, dark and grim enough for people. With a 5-minute, I think it was, intro trailer, which I watched. It was fine.
Trailer.
I don't know that you need to go and watch it.
I'm gonna watch it. But
it shows a group of treasure hunters trying to find treasure. They're fighting some monsters, and then the one dude sacrifices himself, and they bring Lilith back. So Lilith is looking to be the main villain in Diablo 4.
Graphics are impressive. I mean, I guess they should be at this point.
That's not gameplay.
Official gameplay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at the trailer I was just talking about.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the gameplay trailer.
No, the game looks great.
Jesus.
So...
Kick that guy in the chest.
Basically, it's going to be looking darker. It's going to have a larger open world. They're trying to create a world from what the hands-on stuff that I've read through Kotaku has said, where basically you want to travel from point A to point B. You don't want to... In Diablo, I
was saying it's traditionally just a dungeon crawler, right?
Right, it's a dungeon crawler, and there's lots of basically
not many dungeons in this gameplay trailer. They're outside.
Well, you're outside in a lot of Diablo 3 too. Dungeon crawler just refers to the style.
Just a style. You're not in a dungeon.
I mean, you can be, but there's lots of outdoor areas.
Okay. He's fighting wolves.
So, what was I? You threw me off here. Oh, Diablo in the older Diablo games is you progress, it becomes very much, you kind of figure out what you want to do, you accept this mission, and you open up your map and you jump just from portal to portal to get to the dungeons where you're supposed to be fighting. In this one, they kind of want to create a more cohesive world, they've said. They want to give you a reason to travel from point A to point B, meet up with other players, have things happen that you wouldn't expect to happen.
More open world?
More open world, more like natural events occurring. What I liked about reading this, though, was the one guy was talking about basically the ethos is we want you to kick ass when you're in the game. Even breaking a barrel should feel gratifying. This is from Chris Giampa. If you were to close your eyes and play the game, you'll hear exactly what's happening: chopping a goat man in half, squashing him with a boulder. So, it's nice to hear them say that, because one of the things that I've always loved about Diablo games, and especially Diablo 3, I think did it particularly well, is that it's a dungeon crawler where yes, there's going to be challenge, especially if you're playing on the harder difficulty levels, but the game does an amazing job of within 15 minutes, you can be level 2 or level 3, and you're already feeling like a badass. Blizzard they do a really good job on the Diablo games of making you feel like you're an ass-kicking superhero, even if you're early on. And it keeps people playing, because there's always new skills and new things to unlock on your skill tree. New passive skills, new active skills. But the ones that you've got are already fun to play with. They make sure you're having fun with the game at every possible turn, and it sounds like they're really focusing on the same thing for this as well. So yeah, that's something I really like. It's unlike other dungeon crawlers, unlike some other RPGs I've played, where you really have to put the time in to feel like you're progressing or getting anywhere. Diablo, especially in part 3, and it sounds like with part 4, does a really good job of making you feel like you're doing everything right out of the gate. Everything just plays nice with itself.
Gotcha. I see
all the skills, everything comes together, even early on, to feel very nice. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. There is no release date announced that I could find.
From what it looks like, this is at least over 2 years off from what people are saying.
I have a feeling it's probably a good,
should be a while,
good length time away. Blizzard doesn't ever really rush stuff out, to my knowledge. In fact, they probably take longer than they should for most things. That's what most people would say.
They take longer than they should.
Yes.
Hey, when it's done, it's done. At least it'll be good when it comes out, right?
So,
hopefully be finished.
I'm ready for it.
All right. Diablo Immortal, Ian.
What about it?
They showed it,
okay.
and people are actually having positive feedback to it.
Oh, are they?
From the reports I saw.
Imagine that. It's not the end of the world.
They said the developer said Backlash was rough, but mobile game is firing on all cylinders. Last year was rough. Principal game designer Wyatt Cheng told the Telegraph at BlizzCon, "We knew that there were multiple Diablo projects being worked on by multiple Diablo teams. That's what we said. That's all we could say." Well, that's what it is. So that's going to come out probably. I'm guessing that's going to be within the next 6 months to a year. It has to be. If they were showing it off last year at this point. And that's going to be a multiplayer online mobile game.
Looking at screenshots, it looks fine. I've got Diablo 3, I guess, if I want to play through another Diablo. Is this going to offer me like a story mode that I'm not going to get a chance to experience elsewhere? I guess probably. Do I care? I don't really play Diablo for the story. I don't know. With Apple Arcade being something that I've subscribed to now for 2 months because I like the idea of it, I'm still reminded that I don't play anything on my phone. Nothing sticks.
Diablo Immortal is different to Diablo 4 is that it was pitched as a massively multiplayer online game. There were also suggestions that the game was a reskin of NetEase's own Crusaders of Light.
I remember
which itself was something of a Diablo clone. The game is running on NetEase's in-house engine, but Blizzard says that Diablo Immortal has been built from the ground up. Well, there you go.
From the ground up or running on their in-house engine? I guess that's not mutually
You can
exclusive.
use the engine, but I guess not just reskinning it. It's being built, I guess, the assets and everything else. That makes sense. All right. There you go. That's going to do very well when it comes out. I mean, the new Call of Duty mobile game did a ridiculous business.
I forgot that's a thing.
Most downloaded game like ever or whatever the hell it was within like a week, or everyone downloaded it. The new Call. I gotta start trying to play these games to see how good these are. First person shooters on a phone. I'm really curious.
I think a lot of people are using controllers now too.
Okay. So just saying,
snap-on controller, or they're putting that up on a stand.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that.
And playing it on a little screen, I guess you can do that.
I feel like, that some of the Apple Arcade games that I've played, may be better with a phone. I have no idea, or with a controller. I have no idea.
Okay. Overwatch 2. Any looking forward to that at all?
I really loved the first Overwatch, but I quickly was not good enough to hang, so I stopped playing.
I never played it, and I should, because it's probably a game right up my alley.
I fucking love Overwatch.
That's the closest I'm going to get to like a team first-person shooter type game.
It's a team first-person shooter.
I love those.
But it's sci-fi. It's colorful. The cast of characters is unique. Like, it's not just military. Like, everything.
Closest I'll get to an Unreal game.
There's lots of blues and oranges in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not dark. Like, the thing I loved about Overwatch when it came out are still things I love about Overwatch now, other than the community has solidified itself. You don't want to and I'm not good. I'm not good enough. So when it came out on Switch, I was curious and I was like, Blizzard doesn't need my money right now. Like,
gotcha.
They don't.
It's only been out for 3.5 years. I feel like it's been longer or shorter. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking to support. I'm still not looking to necessarily support Blizzard with too much. But hey, maybe when Diablo 4 comes out, I'll have to bite. Because we all have our weaknesses. But yeah, Overwatch 2, I didn't follow it. It's cool, but I'm never gonna play it.
Okay. I'll try to get into it at some point if there's nothing else for me like Unreal. Let's put it this way: when I watch them on TV and ESPN, I can kind of almost follow what's happening. Kinda. It's still better than watching something like a professional Counter-Strike game, because with that, it's one player time. There are groups together usually. In Overwatch, you're fighting together.
It depends. Yeah,
so it's easier. It's easier for me to follow. It's just presented better on the television, because they pull out and you see what's going on a broad. You can kind of follow what's going on a little bit easier. I'm trying to learn not knowing it, and it's actually entertaining to watch those games. Now the MOBAs though, I still don't know what's going on. They made fun of that in SNL a couple weeks ago, having a character, I think a rapper, who's done it before. He's like a Knicks guy that then he has to do a Rangers game and then doesn't know what's going on. They had him follow a League of Legends thing, and on the screen he doesn't know what the hell's happening. It was funny as hell.
Oh, nice.
Or doing color commentary or analysis. I'm like, that's the same thing when I watch it. I can't tell what the hell's happening. But Overwatch, I can kind of tell what's going on.
It's not that hard. It's protect or escort.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I still don't know. When they're building up their special attacks, I still can't follow what's happening with that and when that happens, and when it's going to go. show off things like that. All right, well there you go. That's me and Ian's BlizzCon 2019 coverage, I suppose. And of course, StarCraft can go to hell because they haven't developed a StarCraft game in forever.
Yeah, there was nothing StarCraft related.
That's kind of a shame.
Yeah,
that's kind of a shame. I guess no. When did Warcraft 3 come out? Is that still a thing anymore? Warcraft 3.
Jeez, probably
6 years ago. When did that come out?
6? That had to have been
2002.
I was gonna say that's way long.
That was 2002.
That was before I moved here, dude.
I could have sworn that was like 2012. It was 2002.
Oh, man, no.
Okay,
it was like way before
Warcraft 4 can fuck up. Man, I'm thinking of Spacecraft 2. When did Spacecraft 2 come out?
StarCraft
2, not Spacecraft. When did StarCraft 2 come out?
I don't remember.
Is there a Spacecraft? StarCraft 2 was 2010. Man, I'm confusing the two. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, they're both way overdue. Warcraft is due for Warcraft 4. That's still probably my favorite, most favorite real-time strategy is Warcraft 2. This is an excellent game there. All right. Moving on. Ian.
Yes.
We love little Marty Scorcese. There was a hubbub of him saying that hullabaloo about a month ago already, saying that Marvel movies to him isn't cinema. And then everyone went after him for saying that. People saying, how dare you, Martin Scorsese, you're jealous of the success of Marvel movies, which to me is the silliest thing you could say. But at the time, he was trying to, defend what he saw as more, I was to say risk-taking when it came to movie making and more auteur-style movie making versus what he saw as corporate movies taking over, movie theaters, which is what is happening with these releases. Big tentpole releases now are like 80% of movies, it seems like nowadays. But back in the day, there was a more even split of these things. So he now has penned an op-ed piece saying, I said Marvel movies aren't cinema. Let me explain. Cinema is an art form that brings you the unexpected. In superhero movies, nothing is at risk, a director says. And he goes into a well-written op-ed piece in the New York Times explaining that franchise films are made by people of considerable talent and artistry. You can see it on the screen. The fact that the films themselves don't interest me is a matter of personal taste and temperament. I know that if I were younger, if I'd come of age at a later time, I might have been excited by these pictures and maybe even want to make one myself. But I grew up when I did, and I developed a sense of movies, of what they were and what they could be. That was as far from the Marvel Universe as we on Earth are from Alpha Centauri. He goes on to say just about, let's see, to him, filmmaking was about confronting the unexpected on the screen and in the life it dramatized and interpreted, enlarging the sense of what was possible in the art form. For us, it was an art form. There was some debate about that at the time, so we stood up for cinema as an equal to literature or music or dance, and we came to understand that the art could be found in many different places and in just as many forms. They talked about Alfred Hitchcock's films being like their version of Marvel movies at the time. They were big events you went to.
He conceded that some things were samey, but he also said, he also, expressed why he felt like they were different. And in some ways, I do think some of it is simply a generational gap thing. But I think a lot of people who reacted against his initial statement so poorly, forget to realize is he's not saying that you can't like superhero stories. This isn't so much your superhero stories are dumb. It's these are your mass-produced, highly commercial corporate superhero stories, and I'm coming from the angle of the little guy. Like, I know it's weird to think about it that way because Scorsese hasn't exactly been a little guy in a while. And there was a time where superhero movies, in all of our memory, were these small projects that people didn't think were ever going to amount to anything.
They were garbage movies that would come and go. You see one every 3 years come out.
And in just a decade, that's changed. So I think a lot of people, this is a great article. If people sit down and read it, anyone who is not being willfully ignorant, I think, is going to read this article and go, I get it. I understand. Because it's not so much an insult or a commentary on superhero movies themselves, but on mass-produced corporate commercial movies that have sort of taken over the theaters, and that's what superhero movies have become. And I like a lot of superhero movies, but Pat and I were talking about it a little bit before, and I'll bring it up again. And I said this the minute I left the theater after seeing Infinity War. There was no emotional investment. I remember reading online, people getting all sad, people doing the vanishing memes, when Thanos snaps his finger and people disappear.
People crying in the theater when I'm looking around like, what?
So hollow, because because of how commercial these movies are, because of how these stories work, you understand that these people are coming back. You know that person, it's an immediate...
Black Panther's coming back because they're doing a sequel.
Because they just hired him.
Spider-Man's coming back because they're already filming the next one.
Because he's already been in one. From contracts, from the big money that it takes now to make these
It's a machine.
Over the course of a decade, it's changed so much that it is a machine. That these people are coming back. They're not going to hire someone for one movie and then kill them, and then that's it. They're coming back. There was no emotional investment in that movie. And I didn't like it.
It was still a good movie, I thought.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was
fine. I thought it was still good.
It was, but it was just, it was not, there was no emotion, and the whole rending of garments afterwards, it's like, you guys are, I get that you're supposed to feel this way, but it's impossible to feel this way when everything outside of the actual movie itself is telling you, don't worry, you don't need to feel this way.
These movies are made in boardrooms. That's what Scorsese is trying to say. When Scorsese was on the rise, people like him and Coppola and Spielberg and Lucas, they were one-man bands piecing together this stuff, going against the corporate system of Hollywood. They were the guys rebelling against that, and in doing so,
it was an artist's vision, not a boardroom's vision.
And in doing so, they created stuff you hadn't seen before in the 70s. The 70s was a renaissance of movies. At the things like Bonnie and Clyde. Even you want to say Jaws, blockbusters didn't exist before Spielberg did Jaws, really.
Sure.
So that was his vision. Now you can say blockbusters bad, but they were doing things that didn't exist at the time. Star Wars was revolutionary.
I'm not going to sit here and say that none of these folks have ever put out a bad movie, because they certainly have. I don't like a lot.
But they were trying to do something different at the time in a system that didn't exist for them.
His argument makes sense. You read it and it's a valid argument. I didn't know about Zombieland 2 until like a month before it came out. Pat and I are sitting here, in the intro talking about a zombie movie with Bill Murray that I heard whispers of, but never actually knew it came out.
It came out a Bill Murray with Tilda Swinton and Adam Driver zombie movie came out in June. And I guarantee you, half the people listening to this don't even know about that. A smaller, more, you want to say indie style budgeted movie came out. To Focus Features, and no one saw it or heard about it.
I saw a preview for a movie that I actually really want to see called Knives Out that I didn't know about until then. And
I've actually heard about.
And now it comes out. It comes out in less than a month. So it's like, I love superhero movies. I go see most of them, not all of them, but most of them, and they've taken over the theater in such a way that. I'm not a movie guy, and you can say, well, do your homework. You can say, do your homework, and you know about these movies. But there was a time where I could go to the movies casually like I do now and still be relatively kept abreast of what's coming out on the horizon. Sure. Now I don't think you can do that because there's so much...
The smaller...
There's so much... And it's not just superheroes, but all these bigger movies are coming out. They're being pushed over everything else.
It seems like what gets the full sort of like backing of... It's really the movie theaters, because they wanted people to come in what makes money. So superhero movies, big blockbuster action movies, and horror movies to me seem to be what you know about 6 months ahead of time and what you're geared to see in the movie theater. But like smaller dramas, smaller thrillers, things like that, biopics, you don't hear about. So when I'm on the plane, Ian, because I do this traveling, you go through the releases, and I'm looking at movies that are less than a year old that I didn't know existed before. Sure. That I never saw. So a movie like Stan and Ollie comes out, a biographical comedy drama of the legendary Laurel and Hardy, comedy act from the 20s and 30s and 40s. That's a movie I probably would have went to see in the theaters had I known it existed.
Sure.
I saw it on the plane, and it was outstanding. Another one I just caught. A 2018 war film starring Paul Rudd, not a small actor anymore, called The Catcher Was a Spy, based on a true story of a Major League Baseball player that goes and tries to recruit a German scientist in World War II. I had no idea that was a thing. Like, no idea. And if that was a movie that was advertised, based upon the fact that even this is Paul Rudd and it's a story, I think people would have saw it. So that comes out, Ian, and gets a box office of less than $1 million because it doesn't even get a chance to be in the movie theater. So when that happens, Ian, guess what? Less of those movies are made. And that's what Scorsese is trying to say. There'll be less risk taking when it comes to movies, and that's not even, to me, a World War II movie with Paul Rudd to me isn't even a risk. That should have got a wide release,
right?
And people should have seen that movie.
So,
and instead, it makes no money. They don't make them anymore.
And like I said, I do admit that I don't pay attention to movies very much. Maybe if I was like, you know what, let me look into some of these movies that are coming out. I'd like to go see a movie. I'd like to see a couple movies this month with Bonnie. I can look at what's happening. I might know about this more, but I definitely do feel like the media was better at giving you a greater overall picture of what was being released or what was upcoming.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's I go to a movie and I might catch a preview out of nowhere, but that Knives Out movie looks great. I like.
Oh, that's good. I think that's a great cast. I think that's going to be.
Yeah, that does have an insane.
But that's now more the exception now, where it's just a thriller movie with an eclectic cast. You know that let's say Ryan Johnson's directing. Like, it's harder and harder to get people in the theaters to see that sort of stuff,
right? And that's
or being conditioned not to see that stuff.
I'm looking at this movie and I'm like, this should be
a bigger
fantastic,
movie. Yeah.
And this should be great based on the director, the cast.
Chris Evans in it, Daniel Craig.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe mystery movies aren't in right now. But yeah, it looked good.
Yeah, that's all Mr. Scorsese is trying to say there. He's not saying you can't enjoy the movies, or he's just saying that they're. And the examples we gave, like the firings of like Edgar Wright off the Ant-Man movie, because it wasn't keeping.
And now I read this, and that comes back to kill me, because if there is one Marvel movie I could see, I would have been there day one, and I've been there day one for a lot. But I love Edgar Wright, and I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with that, and I'm sure it would have been very different. The problem is like I look at you look at Edgar Wright and his humor, and you look at I almost wonder if that Ant-Man movie was being made now, if he would have a better chance of being able to make it, or less.
The Marvel movies have become more and more cookie cutter as I've gone along.
Yeah,
they just have. I mean, say what you will about the Incredible Hulk movie. That probably the original vision of that wasn't Marvel Studios, but still, that would have been probably a way different movie. That longer cut we're never going to see, and so things like that happen. Where Scorsese had a line where he said the Marvel movies are remakes; they're not really sequels; they're remakes of just one another, and he's right. Because you're getting the same characters, you're getting similar, villain situations, and the plots are very similar.
But one thing I've always said about them too, that I think is to a degree, it's a compliment when they're done well, is comic book movies have very much emulated
comic books,
what they are supposed to be. Yeah, they have emulated the medium. Nothing really matters for more than that moment. I don't feel like that they're meant to be gone back to. That's always been a complaint of mine, is even like I've never felt the need to really go back and watch any of them, and that's fine. But they are, I think, in a way, a very different thing than movies. You go and you see them in movie theaters, but it's just slices of life constantly. It's just the same. It's the characters and the little stories, and they keep going. And yes, you tell the same. Book. It's a comic book.
You throw it out when you're done. That's why people threw them out. They were worthless. I read it this month. Get rid of it. It's done. Because it doesn't matter. I really want to see life or history of cinema 50 years from now to see. Out of all these Marvel movies, there might be a few that go back and are rewatched by people. You think people are going to go back and rewatch Ant-Man and the Wasp or Iron Man 2 or Thor: The Dark World in 20 years? No one's going to watch those movies anymore.
No, they were passable issues on a way to a greater event. Yes. I mean, that's what they were.
People will watch like maybe the top 10 or 10% of these Marvel movies. They'll see, Guardians of the Galaxy did something different. Civil War tried to do something different. Or, of course, Winter Soldier did.
I was going to say Guardians of the Galaxy, Winter Soldier.
Maybe Civil War I thought was interesting.
Thor 3 of all
Thor 3 is out there and wacky.
Of all the Thor movies, that one. There are ones that people will go back to. There are good movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and even the worst ones I don't really regret watching because they were fun at the moment. But you're not going to rewatch them, right? I don't think of them necessarily the same way as
I never said to myself, "Oh my God, Iron Man 2 is on TV. I'm gonna miss out." I couldn't even tell you what happens in Iron Man 2 anymore. I can't tell you.
Iron Man 2 is that movie that people watch because they feel they need to complete it. But if this was not, if there was not a big cinematic universe, no one would be going back to watch Iron Man 2. They're only watching it because it's part of a larger. It's a smaller piece and part of a larger picture.
Yeah, that's the whole point there. Is that the up and rising auteur filmmaker is going to be tough to get movies made like they did 30, 40 years ago. So if I was a director, I'd be troubled. I have to be on Scorsese's side because, like, what if I want to do my movie that could be amazing? I'll never get to make it. That's what he's saying here. The firing of both standalone Star Wars movies, they fired the directors off both of them. Well, with Rogue One, they didn't say they fired him, but they basically fired him and reshot half the movie. On the Solo movie, they fired the 2 directors and got Ron Howard because it wasn't keeping in line with what Disney wanted to do.
And it's odd. I mean, I'm just one viewer, but like getting rid of, say, Edgar Wright on Ant-Man meant that I didn't watch Ant-Man until like a year after it came out.
And it's like, it's an okay movie, but it would have been probably viewed somewhat better with
Rogue One. I would have seen in theaters, but I still haven't seen it yet. I know a lot of Gareth Edwards like shots are still in there, but I know they changed it drastically. So my entire desire to see the movie was out the fucking window.
Because you want to see what the original auteur, the original vision of what that was going to be.
Yeah.
Which could have been a little risky, but at least it would have been something different.
Right.
But it maybe would have made only $20 million left. So the bean counters say, oh, no. We have it, market tested what we want, and that's what also he was saying. That's all he's saying. So it's funny people are jumping down Scorsese's throat when he's sticking up for someone trying to.
Yeah, if you actually read what he's saying and you don't take everything so personally, you realize that it's not so much an attack on comic books. I think a lot of people read it and wanted to think that it's comic books are for kids. No, that's not what he's saying at all. He's actually talking about the movie making system.
Yes, he's standing up for the little guy, little tiny cute Martin Scorsese. All right, moving on. Ian, I want to talk about this Valve situation a little bit.
Sure.
So, fraud forces Valve to kill CSGO loot box key trading. Valve didn't offer more information than that, but says the whole market was taken over by fraudsters. So, Ian, we talked about...
Literally says that.
I mean, Valve isn't mincing words. So, Valve does their Counter-Strike Global Offensive stuff with their loot boxes and all the freaking skin trading and all the gambling sites that YouTubers that somehow still have careers somehow after they want kids to go to these sites and fucking gamble to get
So, what happened? So, how this works is basically you find a loot box in-game. You have to buy a key to open the loot box.
That's
you used to be able to buy a bunch of keys and then sell them off to your friends if you wanted to. How you're getting these keys for cheaper, I don't know. How's this that? No one cares. They did not care. However, they have shut it down. So just to quote,
you can still buy the keys.
Yeah,
for
you can
Valve.
still buy the
keys.
keys.
You can't just resell them.
You can't resell them. You still need to buy the keys to open the loot box. The company has announced that the marketplace has been taken over by large fraud networks as a way of laundering money. No shit. On the CSGO blog, this is great. This is very direct to the point. An unnamed staffer wrote that nearly all key purchases that end up being traded or sold on the marketplace are believed to be fraud sourced. The well has been poisoned. Everything is fucked.
This is someone at Valve saying that?
Someone at Valve said nearly all purchases that end up being traded or sold on the marketplace are believed to be fraud sourced.
Wow, they're not even trying to mince words here. No. That's kind of rare.
It's all gone to hell, is what they've said.
Pre-existing keys will remain unaffected, however. So I guess maybe I'm selling some cocaine out there, Ian. I got a lot of money coming in. I don't know how to wash it properly and get it in a bank account because the government know where it comes from. So I'm gonna go on this little network and I'll just I'll just buy, I don't know, $1 million worth of keys and then slowly resell them all and just get my money back. And now it's washed. The money comes into my my PayPal account. So apparently this is this type of stuff that's going on.
Right.
Which is kind of hysterical when you think about it. But it is a giant loophole that, that I guess they didn't care about until now. You know why probably they don't care about until now? Because now probably governments are coming after their asses.
Right.
And saying, what the hell are you doing? And not seeing that. What you don't think it's weird? This individual here has bought and resold $100,000 worth of keys this year. You think that's normal? That's probably the stuff that's been going on. That's being tracked.
They didn't care because it was generating them a lot of money.
The buying of them is generating money. The reselling is, but now
the reselling, but they're losing. But now if they can't do that, they're going to lose all those people who are buying keys to resell.
But I guarantee you, it's because there's going to be a government crackdown on this stuff.
Oh, sure.
This is all leading up to that. There's probably the FBI comes in and be like, do you know who's buying your keys? Have you looked into these accounts
any
offshore?
Reason why anyone would buy $1 million worth of keys?
Do you know there's
okay.
You know this guy that might be in this terrorist group just bought $50,000 worth of keys the last week? Like, you don't think that's strange, or you don't care? Or some sort of weird Russian hacking group or whatever is washing money. That's exactly what's been going on. It's such a weird situation to be in. You're a freaking military shooting game, and all of a sudden you got potential drug lords using your in-game market to wash their drug money. It's bizarre.
So yeah, with this happening, and with all the with games being in the news more about gambling and stuff like that, I wonder if this has people who do the skin selling nervous. It's funny that this game, it could be used for so much beyond just...
It's almost like no one even cares about the gameplay. It's almost secondary.
Yeah, I forget that there are people who actually play it, because every time CSGO comes up, it's about money laundering or skin
or
trading.
Gambling.
Yeah, gambling
gambling for children, which I think those lawsuits are probably still going on. The class action suits are still going on.
At some point, someone has to care about the game, because someone has to care about using the skins enough to buy the skins.
But it almost seems like it's propping up the game is just this like ecosystem of gambling and reselling and money laundering. It's just really funny to me. In October 2016, the Washington State Gambling Commission demanded Valve immediately cease skin trading operations. Oh, I didn't know about that. So that's just one state.
Oh, wait, what?
Huh? The one state, Washington, the Gambling Commission demanded Valve immediately, because it wasn't, like we were talking about, it wasn't, you didn't know the odds of all this crap back then. You didn't know what I mean? It wasn't presented as gambling. So one state commission said, this is gambling. So stop it, because it's not regulated. That's another that's a Polygon article I'll link here. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's... Huh.
There's a lawsuit filed in April 2019 by Washington's Quinault Tribal Nation, which accused Valve of unethical, oppressive, and unscrupulous business conduct for its role in online gambling. That's interesting. They're trying to go at them. They probably see, it's probably taking away our local business,
right?
Because you're allowing the skin trading. What a disaster! I mean, they're making money, Valve. They don't care, They do this instead of making Half-Life 3, so they don't give a crap.
Maybe now they'll have to make something.
They'll have to make a game again.
Left 4 Dead 3, Half-Life 3,
oh my God.
Portal 3.
Just make Half-Life 3. I think that's all we care about at this point. Then you can stop. Just hire someone else to make the game. We said before, just hire someone else to make it. Just pay them to make it. Isn't that funny? I just linked the Polygon article there.
I saw, yeah.
That's hysterical.
Well... All right. There's that.
That's a fun story, Ian. That's a fun money laundering through keys for loot boxes. All right, Ian, we have a Patreon.
We do. You go to patreon.com/CU podcast, and you take a look at the menu and you order off that menu.
It's not like going to Wendy's, Ian. There's no value menu anymore.
Because it's all a value menu.
It's all a value menu?
It's all a value menu.
Except for the top end where you get to chat with Ian once a month. The rest is a good value. That's a good value too, though. I should be paying Ian to talk to him more, I think.
Anyway,
like an early 90s 900 number commercial. How were those even legal back then? Every commercial. Did you ever call one of the 900 numbers? Oh my God, you did?
I did once.
Was it a wrestling one?
No, I don't remember what it was. It was like some bizarre Halloween time. Like 900 number.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Talk to Elvira. She had one probably. I would have talked to Elvira. Patreon poll topics. In last place at 8%, Ian's one goes down in flames. What's the dream convention panel you want to see? 8%. Second place, hanging on. What pinball arcade games would be in your dream arcade? 19%. And in first place with 73%, which is a Putin presidential poll. What modern games should Ian force Pat to play and why? Ian, you got to sell me on some games here, or force me. If you can duct tape me down to a chair, Clockwork Orange style, and put a controller in my hand, peel my eyeballs open, give me like 3 to 5 games I should play and why.
I'd probably make you play Skyrim just so you can see what an open world game is actually like, a modern open world game, because you haven't played one.
Breath of the Wild, you don't consider it?
I would, but you've played Breath of the Wild for 30 hours.
That's not enough to get a feel?
Okay, I mean, that's a start.
But Skyrim, I was interested in Skyrim whenever it came out 10 years ago. Was it 5 came out?
Yeah. No, Skyrim is 5.
This is 5 for Elder Scrolls. I was interested at the time. I remember buying it for $360 at the swap meet when I actually had my 360 hooked up. So I was getting close to there. I almost played that one. I think I'll enjoy like crafting my own guy and getting armor and spells.
I think you would enjoy it.
Arrow to my knee stuff.
Don't. I would also say.
So I was there with you.
I would also say something like Splatoon 2. because you're a Nintendo fan and you enjoyed online shooters in the past. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't enjoy this one.
It's a little weird though, because it's not all about killing the other team though. It's about strategy, and it's also third person though. I'm not a big fan of third person shooters.
You wouldn't know though until you tried.
That's okay.
I mean,
I do own Splatoon. I think I do. I think I own it. Did I buy it? No, I don't own Splatoon. Do I? I don't know if I own it. I don't think I ever bought it.
And then I would probably say, oh geez.
Do you think I'd be good at Splatoon? You think my skills would transfer over to it?
You might be.
A little twitchy. I'm good at twitchy stuff. Good at hand-eye coordination.
You might be okay.
Good at twitchy stuff.
You know what? I'd want you to play something like Dark Souls. Not because I think you need to necessarily, but because then you'd understand exactly what people are talking about, and because I think you would actually like it. I'm not saying you should play Dark Souls because I'm a massive Dark Souls fan, but I think to understand modern video games, you probably do need to play something like Dark Souls.
What does Dark Souls have that Games of Fort did not?
So it's a culmination of things. It's the very extreme difficulty.
Okay, there's been hard games before, but
it's very open-ended.
Okay.
So there's a lot of trial and error along with the difficulty. And it's a game that has influenced the past 5 years of gaming very much. Until you've played it, you're not going to understand. Yes, there have been hard games before. Yes, there have been open games before, but nothing quite like this. The game is all about preying on your on risk reward in a way that many games don't really. Well,
give me an example of that. Like, what do you risk to get something?
Well, progress comes at a very high cost. If you have to push yourself during the game to make it to, say, the next checkpoint, and if you die, you don't just you have to go back through it all again. So the question comes:
there's no safe spots.
There are safe spots, but going back to the safe spot to save respawns all the enemies. So it's not like you can just level up a ton.
And then go through.
You can grind, but your grind is only going to get you so far. You can't necessarily just brute strength your way through any part of the game.
Skill.
There's a lot of skill involved.
Okay, I like it. It feels more like life and death than most video games.
Yes,
achieving. I like it.
Well, whether I agree that the games can there's room for a game like that to be played on an easier mode, et cetera, but the game does create. If the game grabs you as it is, a Dark Souls type game, the reward for completing seemingly mundane tasks like beating a boss or something again, it feels a lot greater than the sum of its parts. It feels like playing a video game when you were a kid again. It feels like beating that hard boss, like it means something. Yet they've found a way to meaningfully translate that into the modern era. It's unique. And I'm not the biggest fan of the games. The detractors against the games, they all have good points. But to understand modern games, I do think Dark Souls is something you would probably have to play.
You said it's in the last 5 years games. That first one did or the last one did?
Well, within the past 10 years, whenever the first one came out, I don't even.
It was 2011. I looked it up.
2011. So since the first one came out, or even Demon's Souls, that was the first one I played. That was the precursor.
Is it on Switch at all? Dark Souls?
Yes, the Dark Souls Remastered is on the first. The first Dark Souls was remastered and released on Switch. Vonnie had it for a brief, realized it was not for her.
Would 2 and 3 just melt the Switch? They can't be on there?
No, honestly, you could probably put them on there. But yeah, it's a really good version of what I saw. I saw her playing.
Ian, I will get Dark Souls on Switch for you.
Well, there you go.
I will try it.
Give it a go.
For Ian. Should I stream it?
Yeah, you probably should.
So it's risk reward. So, okay, I see. That's what you're saying. So it's not
I like the basic gameplay of Dark Souls a lot. I don't like getting lost in games. I hate getting lost in games.
You get lost in it?
Yeah, I hate getting lost in games. So that's kind of the thing that kills Dark Souls a little bit for me. But I still think it's a worthwhile genre. It's a worthwhile game and a worthwhile genre.
Like being lost like in a dungeon, you mean, or not knowing where to go?
Yeah, just not knowing where to go.
Interesting. Okay, Ian sold me on. He sold me on the Dark Souls. He Dark Souled me on that.
There we go.
I'm not sold on Splatoon. I don't know how much I've been into that. Plus, because you got to rely on all your teammates who could be idiots and ruin it for you. Without any single player thing, it doesn't appeal to me as much. But Dark Souls sounds pretty fun. And any other ones Ian I should check out? You think I'd like?
We can revisit this topic later. Off the top of my head, no, there's nothing just jumping out at me. You think I love a game like the Spider-Man game? For some reason, it doesn't appeal to me.
even though I have the PS3 sitting over there with the game.
The more cinematic a game gets,
PS4,
the less interest I have in it.
Yeah,
I like that's fine. Like Death Stranding is out, and we can just tack it on to the end of this. Like I like Kojima, and I like his stories. I think Kojima does neat stuff with stories, but this game looks to be the absolute culmination of a movie that you just play, oddly somehow without being a David Cage game, which would be like Detroit Beyond Human, or whatever the fucking games were called. Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Something Human, Heavy Rain. But anyways, it's not like an interactive movie like that, but it just seems to be that culmination of the gameplay is getting in the way of what I really want to do, which is make a movie.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, the Spider-Man game to me looked a little bit like that too on PS4.
Yes, it looked very much like that.
When I was watching I watched a lot of the gameplay before it came out because I love Spider-Man. When I couldn't tell at what points it was a cutscene versus like an assisted almost cutscene where you're just pressing a button to web swing, and I'm just like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like a game anymore to me. I'd rather just watch someone play it and get through the story. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like having an effect on the game. Even the fight scenes seem like they're overly choreographed on these games.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you watch it and you're like, man,
you're not in control.
You're like, oh, that's gameplay footage. That combat looks great. How does it look great? Well, obviously, I can't be controlling it that much.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where the line gets weird for me.
And at that point, I will just go and play Dragon Slayer again because I like Dragon Slayer. If I want to play a movie game,
the Spider-Man game is Dragon Slayer.
You're playing Dragon Slayer. Just go play Dragon Slayer.
Which there's a mini arcade version coming out, like all these other like
oh really?
One-Up ones. I don't think One-Up's doing it though. Who's doing it? This is a weird podcast. We're just going all over. Dragon Slayer mini arcade. Who's making it? Because now all these companies are making this. New Wave Toys is making it. The prototype is out for it. Oh, it's a small. Oh, it was on Kickstarter. We didn't know about this. Oh, you got 14 days of back, Ian. Replicated 1/6 replica. Oh, it's not a 1-up one. It's a 1/6 one. It's like a 1 or 2 feet.
That I actually have interest in.
Okay, Ian. Well,
but that's the thing.
This could be. You want to add a topic? We can add impromptu topic. No. We got time. Short podcast.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying, like it's amusing to me. They just put this out on everything. I just got it on Switch through limited run games.
It's $90 if you want it.
Cute.
$90 for. It's one of the ones you can play with your little finger. Yeah, see that to me is almost too small because if I can't really actually play it. I've seen like those ones with the little spinners that are so tiny.
Yeah,
they have like a
Tempest.
There's a Tempest.
There's a Tempest one. And there's also a very tiny Centipede.
So many companies are doing these now. Like I guess they figured out with the past couple of years. There's like 4 or 5 different companies doing these.
Yeah,
it seems right, and they're like these. 1-to-1 replicas at whatever. They're like a foot tall of these handcrafted wood cabinet. This one is. All right, there you go. It's $90 for you, or $25 for a insert 50-cent keychain, huh? Anyway,
all right,
Ian. We have some Q&A time on the CU podcast. This is from at Unnecessary Fan, the complete Unnecessary Fan. Nintendo has now sold more than 750 million consoles worldwide. Wow, I guess it probably includes the handheld. What do you think is Nintendo's appeal? And why have they outlasted their competitors? Ian, take it away. Why do you think? Well, they've outlasted competitors in the past when they started, yeah.
So I think Nintendo's appeal partially goes back to now it's partially memory, it's partially nostalgia. Nintendo's been doing this for as long as most of us have been playing games. There are systems that came before it, but a lot of us, especially in our 30s, probably started on the NES. Iconic characters such as Mario and Link have been around forever, and they, you get your customers initially by, putting out a quality product, and Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, all the way up to your Super Smash Brothers games. They constantly put out a good product, but I think
Super Smash is the Avengers of.
Yes, but I think another thing is they don't really seem to. And even at times this has concerned me, but they don't really ever seem to care too much about the outside world and what anyone says. When you look at Nintendo, I mean, from then till now, in terms of what they release and kind of their public image, nothing has changed. There was a period in the early 2000s where they had some questionable magazine ads that were a little bit edgier.
Really?
I'm just saying, like, they all go through, like, you should look at some of the weird GBA ones. But, like, they had their, their Play It Loud era and stuff, but they've,
in the 90s,
but they've always presented themselves more or less in a uniform, family-friendly, we are video games sort of way. And by sticking to that and not bending too much to whims, while it's hurt them before, I think it's what always comes back around to help Nintendo, because people know what they're going to get. And even though people may for a few years be like, oh, I don't like Nintendo, I don't like this, I don't like that, you can always go back to Nintendo and basically know what you're going to get with one of their systems, what kind of games you're going to get on it, et cetera, et cetera. Even on their wildly out there ones like the Wii, you still got your Marios, you still got your Zeldas, you still got Mario Karts, you still got some classic standard games. So it's not that they've never changed, or that they're this unchanging force, but I think they tend to keep themselves pretty, that's what I'm looking for. I think there's a standard Nintendo, and I think because of that, people look at it as reliable.
It's weird because when we describe Nintendo as being the Disney of video games, I don't think they're run like a Disney, though. They're not. They're run, even though it's a company that's has they probably have a board of directors and things like that. It's been around for over 100 years, 125 years. The company originally, obviously, it was family run for whatever, probably the first 50 to 6 years. I don't know, without looking it up. They do their own thing as much as they possibly can. They go to the beat of their own drum. They have their own philosophy.
Sure.
So if you say Sony, you say Microsoft is like a software company, and now they're into video games. Sony's a tech company, now they're into video games.
Video games.
Nintendo has always been
video game company that's in the
they've always been an entertainment company. Nintendo. Right. So they always put the entertainment first, and then worried about what video games could we make that are fun, and then build the consoles around the games almost. Right. Whereas always for the other companies, and that includes Genesis, they always worry about the hardware first, what's going to hardware to, and now we'll worry about the game second, almost secondary. It almost seemed like Nintendo was always about, let's see what fun people can have. We'll worry about how we get there after, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it allows them to go off and do goofy things that we see, like the Labo, where people like oh, what is this? The fact that they are doing that, you should applaud them for that. They're going so far out on a limb like that, because a huge company like that would almost never do something like that.
You still have a company that's willing to take these wild ass risks, and it may not work.
A company that big,
yeah, and it may not a company that big, and it may not work, but you've still got a company doing it, and they push forward other companies. I mean, yes. I'll never forget the whole Wii comes out and. I think it was
Sony made fun of them.
I think it was Jack Tretton said, we would never have a controller that looks like a lollipop. And then they go and release a controller that looks
actually
twice as much
like a lollipop.
Twice as much like a lollipop.
With the move, with colored balls on the top.
Yeah. So, it's funny. Everyone wants to act hard about Nintendo's for kids or for babies or for whatever. But all the other companies look at what Nintendo's doing, and then they decide, do we need to do this too?
Yeah. I'm sure that now that the Switch came out, I'm sure Sony and Microsoft are looking at, wow, can we do something like that?
Whether it'll ever actually come out, they had a serious fucking board meeting about it.
Or mocked up a prototype.
Yeah.
To say, oh, can we, what is the Switch doing? Why don't we have that?
That certainly wasn't just brushed off.
Yes.
They didn't go, oh, silly Nintendo. They went, fuck, is this something we need to think about now too? And maybe it's not. Maybe that's not what they're going to do, but still.
They had the conversation at least.
Right.
How do we do what they did where we can make a port? How can we get some of that market? I think it's interesting because when we talked about on end of how all the industry pundits, people we even know, said that the Switch was going to be a failure outright. I made fun of one article by some pretentious guy online that did it for The Atlantic about they don't know that Nintendo has so much freaking money that gives them the freedom to take these risks and to do this stuff. And you only need one to hit. One out of every 3 or 4 has to hit big. And that's what happened with the Wii.
Right.
Because of the Wii itself, Nintendo's fine forever. So they can do these risks.
What? Nintendo's fine forever. No, just you saying that.
Do you know how much money they have in the bank?
Oh yeah, I know.
Tens of billions of dollars.
I know they're fine.
In their Scrooge money vault. because they took the risks. Now, they didn't just do, well, the 360's coming out. Let's do Nintendo's version of 360. If that had happened instead of the Wii, yeah, it would have been a fine system. They would have been lost by now. They would have been lost to, in the clutter of having 3 systems on the market that have literally 80% of the same games. There's no need for that. You need that sort of weird outsider, which is funny because it's like Nintendo's never been an outsider, but they're treated as such in the industry. They're always treated as, well, they're just doing their own thing. And yeah, it's cool they can have some games on their console that are also on PC or on the Xbox system or the Sony system, but they're still doing their own thing. You need that. You need something different. Yeah. That wasn't really the question that was asked, though, was it? It was, why do you think Nintendo's... Their appeal is that they put out stuff, they think about fun first. That's what they're saying. They think about they're in-house thinking, what do we like that's fun? Let's make something fun, and then hopefully they think it's fun, too. And most of the time, they're right.
They have a reliable outward appearance, but they take a lot of risks where it matters.
Their first and second party stuff is out. It's better. Their first party stuff has always been, for the most part, miles ahead of the other first party stuff.
True.
They've had a better array of first party stuff, and that sells their systems. There you go. All right, Ian. One more question, or are we good?
Yeah, let's hold this one.
We're gonna hold it. We always think about doing that.
This one can last forever. We can hold this one.
We can hold it in our hand. Ian, speaking of holding, I got some food for you. I didn't know it was not for you. It was 2 cents of it. We got you. This is from I forget the guy's name. Very nice in Syracuse. A pack of Mallow cups.
Yes, I love Mallow cups.
A peanut chew, which I can't remember the last time I had a peanut chew, but that's an uncommon candy.
Uncommon candy.
And then the original Boyer milk chocolate peanut butter cups.
These are delicious.
Those are like real peanut butter cups?
Yeah, these are really good. Boyer's the same company that does the Mallow cup too. Thank you, whoever got these for me. I appreciate it.
I called out Hershey's before Halloween. I don't know if you saw that. For their tiny, really sorry looking fun size.
Oh, the snack size peanut butter.
It's not even fun. I'll show you how small it is.
Yeah, there's nothing fun about it. I saw.
It'll look dried out.
Yeah, I meant to comment on it because I saw it at work. But yeah, you could see the dryness.
You can see like a lake that has dryness. It's like a dry bed.
Yes,
you can see the outline of it.
If you see that, that's when you don't eat the peanut butter cup because you know it's just going to taste like grainy mush.
What happened? Hershey's?
I don't know. They used to be the greatest candy in the world.
I guess I just got to stock up on the Christmas trees.
Get your trees. Get your pumpkins.
4 times a year. Get 3 times a year and put them in the fridge like I do with Cadbury cream eggs.
But the problem is they all come like right at the same time because all the holidays are kind of in a row. You end up with this dense wasteland. But you get
2 months
apart. Your pumpkins. You get your trees.
And then 4 months later.
You get your Valentine's Day hearts, I believe.
They do hearts?
And then you get your eggs, your Easter eggs.
So what we really need then, Let me
see. I think there's a Reese's heart.
Is there really a Reese's heart?
I think it was more recent, but...
Reese's heart.
Yep, there it is.
Okay. So okay. Hershey's in. We need a 4th of July flag. I guess we need a flag for 4th of July to sort of like get us through the summer months with an acceptable peanut butter cup substitute, right? What else is in the summer? I'm trying to think.
Oh no, okay. So I'm wrong about the heart. The heart is real, but it's a jumbo. Jesus Christ!
Oh, that's a gigantic one. I've seen that.
Yeah, it's 8 ounces. It's
I'm good. Fine. We'll just cut them up. We'll cut them into pieces. We'll do it. So yeah, so you got to survive from April to October without it.
2 8-ounce Reese's hearts.
Well, I'm gonna go out and buy a real 2-pack Reese's peanut butter cup to see if it still tastes good. I think I have to do that now.
Yeah, I think you do.
I got to make sure that's still good. But the fun size are pathetic. Now I'm hungry. Intermittent fasting here. The Mallow cup, I'm okay with it. I'm not a huge fan of marshmallow, but I'll do it. Peanut chew sounds interesting to me. What's in the peanut chew, Ian?
It's stuff. Corn syrup and dark chocolate and peanuts. Dark chocolatey coating. That's literally what it says on the ingredients. Okay. Well, all right.
We're going simple.
Sugar, hydrogenated palm kernel oil, etc. Corn syrup, sugar, molasses. Yeah, there you go. It's like a molasses chew.
It's molasses chew. All right. Is that it for this? This is a weird ass CU podcast.
Hey, it happens.
Well, we got you know what? I got nowhere to be, Ian. I'm done.
I have friends in town, so I'm gonna.
Who's in town, Ian? Any of my friends? No. Okay. Buffalo friends?
No. Texas friends.
Texas? You have friends in Texas?
Lots of friends in Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
When you go to Texas?
I haven't been in a while, but
it's been a while.
A lot of my friends from Buffalo moved to Texas, and now I have new friends in Texas.
Interesting.
John went from Buffalo to Michigan to Texas to San Diego.
Okay. It's a weird progression, but all right.
Yep.
gradually warmer. I guess no, Texas is hotter than here.
Yeah,
Texas can be bad here. UltimateSNES.com if you want to order the guidebook there. Shipping out this starting to ship out this week. I hope they can ship out the 3,000 or 4,000 fairly quickly. That'd be great. That are ready to go. Yeah, and that's it. We don't have a convention until SoCal in March. I think that's the next convention we're going to be at.
I just want to let you know that you can get, for $115, you can get 30 pounds of whole unwrapped Reese's peanut butter cups.
Wait, what?
Yep.
From where?
Yeah.
Stomachs are growling. Where is this from?
Websterantstore.com.
You get real unwrapped Reese's peanut butter cups.
30 pounds. $115.
Not the fun size, though. They don't have to be the fun size.
No, nope. It's the whole size. Look at it right here. There it is.
And those are Reese's.
Yep.
How did they get them? What are they sneak into the back of the factory?
I don't know, man.
And get them in Hershey, Pennsylvania?
I guess.
Do they even make them in Hershey, Pennsylvania anymore?
I don't know.
Someone told me that the little bite-sized ones you don't like anymore, that they don't even wrap them in full anymore when you buy them. You buy them in like a bag. They're not wrapped.
That's a lie. Someone took a picture of them selling some candy, and I saw that.
Okay.
Like, or giving out candy for Halloween, and I saw the little ones in there.
So maybe they still do that. Okay.
Yeah, they might just do both.
Okay. Well, let's make it the candy podcast.
All right, we're done.
I'll take you to the candy shop. All right, we'll see you next time. I got nothing else to push. No events to be at. Thanks for coming out to Syracuse, and we will see you in a week. Hopefully, I'll be here, not like in Japan.